There's nothing quite as sad whenever there's a book in a series that you've been waiting forever for, months and months, sometimes more than a year. The book finally gets in, you're so excited to read it, and you realize that it's missing the mark. And as always, reading is subjective. If you don't agree with any of my opinions, that's totally fine. If you loved any of these books and you think the whole series is chef's kisses, girl, I love that for you. And I wish that I felt that same way, because there's one series in particular that I was so excited for. The last book, in my opinion, is such a big flop. I have 6 book series here where there's one book in this series that isn't quite like the others. The first series that I'm going to start with might be a little shocking because of how much I hype this series up. It is still a 5-star series for me. I love it so much. It's the Knockmount series by Lucy Score, and the book in question here is actually the first book, Things We Never Got Over. While I still enjoy the Things We Never Got Over, whenever you read the next 2 books, you realize that one is not quite like the other. I loved the next 2 books in the series, and the last book is, if I could give it 6 stars, I would. And I think these 2 books make up for the first book. First book seems to drag the longest. It is Grumpy versus Sunshine, and Knox is very grumpy, and sometimes it can be a little too much. I do love a Grumpy versus Sunshine trope, but sometimes the grumpy is just a little too overboard. I still love this series, but the first book is a little off the mark. Next book we have is a thriller series. It's the Housemaid series by Freida McFadden. Can you guess which one of these books is the flop? If you voted The Housemaid is Watching, in my opinion, you'd be correct. I really enjoyed the first book. This was a 5-star read for me. And then I read The Housemaid's Secret, and I thought it was still good. It's a 4-star, a little repetitive. And then I got so nervous whenever I found out that Freida McFadden was coming out with a 3rd book to the Housemaid series, because this book doesn't need to exist in this series. I feel like it would have been so much better if it was just different characters, same storyline, different characters. But even then, I don't know, because the storyline dragged and dragged and dragged until you get to part 2 and you find out what the twist is. The twist just didn't twist for me. There's nothing quite like reading your first Freida McFadden book, because I feel like whatever your first Freida McFadden book is probably going to be your favorite out of hers, and for me that was Housemaids. I loved Housemaids. It was so good. The twists twisted and I loved it. But this book, it just, no. I'm really considering, I don't want to look at you when I say this, that I think I just might not be joining in Freida McFadden as much as I once did. I think I've outgrown her writing. I think she's a really good intro thriller author. And I was looking at all her books and I was trying to see which ones I liked and which ones I didn't. I didn't like more books than I did like, which was shocking because I once loved Freida McFadden, but I think I'm coming to the realization that I need to break up with her. Especially after this book, it just seems like her books in general are very repetitive and it's the same cookie cutter structure. It really should have ended with these 2 books, in my opinion. The next series I don't believe is a completed series. I think there's going to be at least one more book coming out, but I'm still going to include it, and that's the Crescent City series by Sarah J Maas. I love Sarah J Maas. She's one of my favorite authors. She just has this way of really sucking you into the worlds that she builds, and it like feels like you're there, and I love her writing so much. I devoured the first Crescent City book. This is my absolute favorite out of the series. It's one of my favorite SJM books ever. Then you get to the second book and it's like, okay, what? It's kind of weird, a little strange, still liked it. Then you get to the third book and Oh, it's so disappointing for a lot of different reasons. It seemed like all the characters in this book did a 180 from how they previously were in the first two books. The only way that I can really describe why I don't like this book, it's going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't read the Crescent City series and you still plan to and you want to, skip forward to this time. It's going to be the safe zone. No spoilers will be at this time. I warned you, the spoilers, they're rolling in now. So we ended this book, House of Sky and Breath, on such a cliffhanger. Hello, Bryce Quinlan. My name is Rycian. Are you fucking serious? I about lost my mind. Excited as I was a little nervous because I didn't want Crescent City to become an ACOTAR book. The Court of Thorn and Roses series is one of my top tier favorite series. It's the only series that I've done a reread of. I love that world. I love those characters. So to get a little teaser that they would be in this book was fantastic. However, I didn't like it and I wish it never happened. Azriel and Nesta are two of the main ACOTAR characters who cross over into this book, which was interesting. I'm an Azriel girly through and through. I love Azriel. I think about him daily. I'm not even joking. There's something about the fact that he talked more in this book than he did in the whole ACOTAR series that I didn't like, because you're looking at him through a stranger. Like, these people don't know this man, and Bryce is kind of anti-everyone at this point, and it just wasn't it. Then you get to the reuniting of Bryce and Hunt, which was so lackluster. It was so anticlimactic. It was not what I wanted. And then from that point on, Bryce was just a raging bitch to everyone, especially Hunt. And I remember when I was reading this book just wondering what the hell was wrong with her. For the people who said that Hunt needed to man up, I need you to be so for real right now, because this man was just being tortured again for a lover that he has. He probably has PTSD out the wazoo, and he still is like trying. He's trying to hold it together, but Bryce is just not it. Mermaid Man storyline, yeah, okay, I didn't care for it. And then you have, what was his, I don't even remember his name, Ethan, I think it was. He was a Sunball player. We know that for sure. And what was he doing the whole time? You had the potential for all of these strong characters, but they all just were so dull. And then we get to the final battle of this book. So the first two books are leading to the final royale. We have made it to the battle at the end of the book, and it was the strangest, weirdest, lackluster sci-fi turn that I didn't see coming, and I didn't like it at all. It was so just what? And it's not that I didn't want anyone to die. I don't want anyone to die, but no one died in this big battle against the galaxy's worst parasites, and no one died. No one even got a little boo-boo. Also, another point, whenever Bryce declared herself queen, I was just so disappointed in that, because the first two books, you have Bryce who is reluctant. She doesn't want to become queen. She doesn't like the royals. She doesn't like any of that. And she's like, not me, that's not me. And then randomly, at some point, unbeknownst to me, and I think unbeknownst to Bryce, because it's literally like she pulled it straight out of her ass, she just declared herself queen. And everyone was like, yeah, okay, yeah, Queen Bryce. All hail Queen Bryce. No, if you take away anything from my rant about the third book, please just read the first. You could honestly just read this and be done with the series. I would be okay with that. That is acceptable. But the third book is definitely a flop, in my opinion. This next series is a series that I've kind of hinted that I didn't like the last and final book in this series, but I haven't quite fully expressed how much I dislike this book. But I think I'm entering my certified hater era, where I'm holding nothing back anymore. The series that I'm talking about is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I feel like I was done so dirty with the final book in this series. It's just 3 books. We get 3 books. That's it. Once Upon a Broken Heart, The Ballad of Never After, and A Curse for True Love. I gave Once Upon a Broken Heart 4 stars. I gave The Ballad of Never After 5 stars. This book was everything that I want in a YA fantasy. You have the delicious tension. The plot is so damn good. The characters are amazing. The way this book ended, I was so excited for the 3rd book. And then we get this, A Curse for True Love. And trust me, no one wanted to love this book more than me. I wanted to love this book. One thing that made The Ballad of Never After so good was Jax and Evangeline's relationship. It made everything about this book, and we just get wafts of it in this book. It's like they're not even together really ever in this book. There's moments, there's sprinkles of it, but even in those moments it was like, well, that's it. And then with this book, you are shoving in a whole new plot line, and I mean like cramming it in here. And I guess I could see it needed to be there to progress the storyline, but at least give another 100 pages if you're going to include this whole new storyline. This is the shortest book out of all of the 3 books. That's disappointing, and it could have been another 100 pages. It would have made it better if there was just more time to explain these plot points, or to have bigger scenes, better scenes, and I am so sad about it. Don't even get me started about why Jax eats the fucking apples. I am so sorry when I say this. Stefan Garber's response to why Jax eats the apples was so eye-twitching for me, because her response was, oh, I just assumed that everyone understood why Jax ate the apples. You assumed. Every time you see Jax, he's chomping on an apple. Just one bite and throws the apple. That's it. And everyone's like, why is he eating the apples? Why is he eating the apples? And then we don't figure out why. It's not said in the book. Why is Jax eating the apples? Is that petty? Probably. Probably it is petty, but I'm feeling pretty petty right now. You want these 2 people to be together, but fate is like, nah, dog, you can't be together. And you want that moment they finally can be together. You want it to be grand. I want fireworks. I want it all, and it just wasn't there. It fell so flat. This book is probably, out of all of these books that flopped, the biggest flop of all, in my opinion. There's one more series for you, and it's Binding 13, the last book, which is Taming 7, in my opinion, just missed the mark. I don't want to say that this book flopped, but it definitely was not what I wanted. The first 2 books are about Johnny and Shannon. The second 2 books are about Joey and Aoife. I enjoyed Johnny and Shannon's story, devoured Joey and Aoife's story, but there's one character all throughout the first 4 books who I absolutely adored and loved. He is one of my favorite characters from this book, and that was Gypsy. And Taming 7 is Gypsy's book. What is putting me off about this book is we didn't get tons of Gypsy and Claire. There was a side storyline with another character in this book, Lizzie, who seemed to dominate the plot line, which was so upsetting because Lizzie, I get it, girl, you're going through a hard time, understandably so, but can you pipe down for a second and give me some more Gypsy and Claire, because that's what I came here for. Whenever Claire found that note is whenever the storyline picked up for me, is whenever it was like, okay, I'm actually really enjoying this. From that point on, the book ended great. And in my opinion, this book missed the mark. Now that I got all of that off my chest, hopefully I didn't upset anyone too bad. If you have anything to add to anything that I've said, please feel free to comment, even if you disagree with some of the things I said, and maybe you could give me a different perspective and help me understand why some of these books fell flat, or why you think they actually continue the series great. I would love to hear your opinion. I hope you're doing well. I don't know if everyone is getting sick, but my husband brought home some funk, and now if you could tell, my nose has been stuffy this whole time and I low-key feel like garbage. So I hope you're taking care, drinking your water. I'm making chicken noodle soup tonight for dinner because I'm hoping that will make me feel better. That's all I have for you today. Okay, bye. Love you.